What's up, guys? Welcome back to Almost Functional. Just got back last night from ATC. So this is going to be a rundown of the team, how each round went. I will come back and do a more in-depth breakdown of each of my games and how those went and how I feel the list performed, if there's things I think I should have done differently. But this starting one is just going to be getting into the overall team and how all of that went. Uh, so one of our guys ended up not being able to make it. In the prepping for ATC video, I mentioned that one of our guys had been having health issues. We thought he was over it and was cleared, but he had a regression the morning of before he got on his flight, so we ended up having to play down the whole first day with four guys and then picking up a ringer, which threw off the balance of the team. The list we lost was our Necron, which was one of our Horde and Defender lists. Could really fight into anything and beat a lot of stuff fairly handily, but also not lose too much. And if it did, not lose high, which are very important lists in these type of team tournaments. So our pairing process was a little, we weren't sure exactly how to go into that because it was one of our first drop lists a lot of times, which is tough. So we just want to put that out there. So that's not an excuse, just kind of more of an explanation. These team events, if your lists don't have counters for the main stuff, and a lot of them have the same weaknesses, you end up really doing well. You need a good composition of lists, which I feel we had if Bear had been able to make it with his Necrons. So unfortunately, that threw off the plans we had for pairings, and then day one, just having to go into the rounds down a guy just made it really tough. So we'll jump over here and I'll show you guys. This was our round one pairing. We played in a team called Scions of War, heavily medicated, 40k. Great guys, fun round. So our first drop was me with the Space Wolves. My list, if anyone who's watched knows, I designed it to fight everything close. So I wanted to tank into Eldar, GSC, Knights, Custodes, things like that, and try to keep the scores close so that our other lists could try to get into better matchups. Uh, so I got dropped, and then I ended up taking the where's it at? The Knight matchup. Uh, then we ended up getting our Orcs into their Necrons. We ended up getting, but then our next drop was our blank guy, so they got a free 20-0 win. So we were down 20 points even before they even started. Then our Eldar went into their Tau, and our Knights went into their Ultramarines. The Ultramarines, so this was their free win. The Ultramarines was two or three Lancers and two Vindicators with Gilliman. This was not a good matchup for the Knights. This was one of the ones where if we had our Necrons, we would have tried to get that in there, but them knowing they had the free win, they were able to skew their pairings a little bit to get this matchup they wanted here. So between those two, we were down 40 points. I played into the Knights, got a 12-8 win, keep it close, just like the plan. My list did exactly what I was hoping it would do. Our Eldar beat their Tau, and then our Orcs beat their Necrons. So even starting down 20-0, we ended up getting a draw, 51-49. You've got to score at least 55 points. The score's got to be 55-45 for someone to get a win with the WTC scoring. If you're not really sure on that, I broke all that down in the prep for ATC video, but basically this is more about score differential than total score. So playing down a guy, we got a draw. I was real happy with that. If we'd had our Necrons, fairly certain we would have won this matchup. So that was fine. You know, playing down a guy to pull out a draw is pretty nice. All right, so then we rolled into round two, and Let's see if this computer wants to cooperate. We played into a team called Chatachins. They had also got a draw with 4 players. So we had found a 5th player to play the last round with us for the day, and ATC was going to provide us all with a 5th player for the rest of the tournament starting day 2. So we let our 5th player go instead of just taking the 20-0 free win. We just told him we didn't need him for the round. We just played this straight up 4-4, which, if you remember, we talked about the pairings. You both drop a list and then you counter with 2. So with only having 4 players, after you do that for the first round, you both only have 2 lists. So you both drop one, and then you only have 1 list to counter with. So it's really luck of the draw, guessing who's going to drop what. There's no pick there. So the last 2 matches in this really are down to luck, hoping you get the pairings. There's less tactics in that. So we dropped our knights. He took the guard. 11-9. Did what we wanted him to do because he, I think his other option was either Custodes or Tyranids. Or no, I think their guards might have picked our knight. Then our Eldar, and then our orcs picked their Nids. So they ended up getting a 10-10 draw here. They both, I don't think they got past turn 3. They just, I don't know if they both played slow or exactly. I just know they had a real low scoring game and didn't finish, so they ended up getting a draw. Because our orc said he probably could have won that if he'd got the game through, but I believe the lack of getting through turns may have been more his fault than the Tyranids, but I don't know that for sure. So then I played in Custodes, and then our Eldar played in Drukhari. So Eldar, what we wanted was the other way. We wanted the Eldar and the Custodes, and me and the Drukhari, but this was these are the ones where it's kind of just guess, throw down random pairings for the last 2. So neither of us got to choose this. This just happened. So ended up, we got a 19-1, they got a 17-3, so we were up 2 points there. Then this draw, and then here we got another 11-9 win. So we won 2 of the 4 games and tied 1. So we ended up getting 53-47. We were 2 points away from a win, but it's our second draw. If we'd had our Necrons, their list that they were missing was a Marine list, which our Necron list is better than their Marine list just because Necrons are better. Our Necron player is a good player. I don't know their Marine player, but I would say at best he's as good as our Necron player, so I believe that overall would have also got us a win if we'd had both had our players. And we could have also easily auto-won if we'd have kept the 5th guy, but that just didn't seem like the right thing to do. So we pulled out another draw. In the breakdown, I'll go over what went wrong in this Custodes matchup for me, because this should be something I could fight a lot closer. And if I'd have been able to get 2 more points out of that, we'd have won. So even though it is a draw, this should have been a win. And as much as we can talk about us missing guys and this being random pairings, I should have been able to get more points out of this. So the fact that it's a draw, not a win, really is on me. Then that was the end of day 1. So we went home, we recuperated, and then day 3 we come back and they provided us with a Grey Knight player, a guy named Jarrett. Real nice guy, real cool. But his main army is Space Wolves, but he couldn't play them because I'm playing Space Wolves, so they gave him Grey Knights, which he's not as familiar with. So that put him at a little disadvantage, but we were grateful to have him. I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking bad about him. He was great. We threw him into some tough matchups, and he took it like a champ. So in the round 3 matchup, we ended up throwing me down, and they ended up throwing out the Ultramarines, and trying to remember if it was Thousand Suns or Knights. And they threw 2 of those on me, and I took the Marine list because our Knights had already fought Ultramarines and lost really bad to it, and our Eldar didn't want to fight against the Lancers. The Desolations our Orcs didn't want to deal with, so they asked me to take that, so I took that. which was my role to do that and keep stuff close, which, as you see, I did 11-9, and I'll break down that whole game when we get into the other thing. Then the second matchup was GSC into Orcs, well, our GSC into their or their GSC into our Orcs, which was a 14-6 loss. Uh, our Orc player actually timed out, or he probably could have won that game. So the last couple turns, he was really just rolling dice and still managed a 14-6 because he got up big early. So if he had a few more reps with his army and could play it a little quicker, that's probably a win there. And then we ended up with the Knight mirror match, which their Knight won the roll to go first, and that a lot of times in that matchup, that's really the difference. So that is really what happened there. That was a 50-50, and I also lost the roll to go first in the Marine mirror match. And if I win that, I probably go first because they both had desolations. I'll break that whole gold game down, but both the mirror matches we lost the roll to go first, which can happen. Don't put yourselves in that situation where you need the 50-50. Um, so that was the night, and then we threw the G Knight, the Grey Knight player. This is our ringer right here into Eldar. He took a 20-0, playing with an army you're not that experienced with, which is considered a bad army, into the best army in the game. I mean, I don't know anyone that's not getting 20-0'd there, so that's not on Jarrett. He took that for us, so no one else had to. Other than the Eldar on Eldar matchup, I think maybe the Orcs keep it close. I can keep it close, but most stuff loses 20-0 to Eldar, especially if you're a less experienced player with your army. So he took that 20-0 there. We knew that was going to happen. He took it, so no one else had to. And then we got our Eldar into the Thousand Suns, which was a 15-5. Eldar player had no reps into T Suns because new edition. We've only got to practice against so much stuff, so really proud of him pulling that off because Thousand Suns are brutal. But overall, it was a 70-30 loss. So now we have two draws and a loss. So obviously, we're looking at not finishing the weekend very well. And just point out, I'll get more into anything about this dude, Pantho. Great opponent. We had a great game. Probably one of the best people I've played against in a long time. Just personality, banter, just it was a great game. I really enjoyed it. It was my best game of the weekend. And that's not to say anything about any of my other opponents. I didn't have any opponent that I felt I really had issues with. Uh, all my games were good, jovial, fun. Like all my opponents, I would play again. But this one just stood out to me. So then we're heading into round four. Now we play 40K Fight Club. So we drop our Grey Knight player here. He pulls the Eldar again. Actually meant, and I don't know why instead of blank it's showing up as our Necron player, but this was the Grey Knight guy. And he actually managed to get 2 points this time. That's awesome, you know. And now because he had some reps into Eldar, he knew a little better what to do, played it a little better, got us some points. Really awesome. We got our Orcs into their Knights, which gave us a 20-0. Our Orcs player is really good into Knights. Then we got our Knights into their Demons, which I thought would be a pretty decent matchup. I played into Demons with my Marines, and I didn't have much problem picking up the big stuff. So I thought the Knights wouldn't, but I guess he didn't know about Bellacor's bubble. I guess I should have, with having some experience in the Demons, I should have maybe walked him through that, but I didn't. I didn't even think about it. So he deployed, and I guess either his opponent didn't tell him or kind of he missed it because sometimes when your opponent's telling you their rules, you're thinking about your rules and deploying. You're only half listening. So I'm not going to say the guy didn't tell him about it, but he didn't pick up on it until the game had started. He'd already deployed, started, so that really hurt him there. The demons ended up being able to get into him, and in that matchup, you do not want the demons getting into you because it was Bloodthirsters, Be'lakor, Shellac. It was all the big stuff. So that went real bad for our knights. Then I played into Blood Angels. Uh, I lost 20-0. Shouldn't have happened. Wouldn't happen if it happened again. I put a lot of that on me, and I will go through that in the breakdown. I believe I really lost this game in deployment. Uh, if I'd gone, I went second in this match. If I'd went first, I'd probably still win. But the way I deployed, and after he started his first movement phase, I kind of started to realize it. I was in trouble. The way I deployed is I was most likely going to lose if I went second. Uh, I just deployed something you can't do. I deployed out of habit, but this is a fast assault army, and most of the stuff I've been placing has not a lot of assault elements. It's more shooty, especially in a lot of my practice games and so forth through the tournament. So I just muscle memory deployed a lot of stuff, and this game needed to be treated uniquely and different, which it wasn't. And so I'll get more in depth to that when I break down this actual matchup. But so that should have been a close game. Him going first, he might still win, but this should have been a very close game, and it wasn't. And that's all my fault. I actually played him last year. I believe we had a tight game that year. I was playing Space Wolves, he was playing Blood Angels, but I was playing more Combat Wolves, and he was playing Combat Blood Angels. So that was more hit in the middle of the table and slug it out, which I really enjoy those type of games. Then we got our Eldar into their guard, which was a 17-3 win for us. Guard just has a lot of shooting. They were able to pick up a lot of his little stuff, but the Wraith Guard and the Wraith Knight are just tough. So that ended up being a 61-39 loss for us. It probably should have been a draw. I could have definitely got enough points out of this to make it a draw. I could have got 9, which would have taken 9 from them, which would have put us at 48, and them at like 52, something like that. So this definitely should have been a draw. I put that it's a loss and not a draw on me. That's 2 of our rounds where we could have went from a draw to a win or from a loss to a draw. And I just specifically on my game, me doing different things could have changed how the team fared in both those matchups. All right, so that was middle of day 2. So then we had one more round, day 2, round 5. Then we played into. What was the team's name if the computer catches up? This was probably the best round for us as a team. I also feel it was like, other than the night matchup round 1, where I got the win, this was probably my best played game. So while this is loading, I got it all written down over here. So they dropped me first. I end up tanking into the Genestealer Cult matchup, uh, which was something I had theoried I could fight, but we hadn't actually seen. But you see here, I got an 11-9 win. So exactly what my list was supposed to do. Desolators are really good into Genestealer Cult. Ragnar and his squad can pick up some stuff. The Whirlwind and Vindicator are blast, so they do decent in here. You shoot frag missiles off the ballistas. So this played kind of how I hoped. Then we got their Space Wolf player into our Grey Knight player, which ended up being a 16-4. So he got us 4 points there. Can't complain about that. Then we got our Eldar into their Drukhari, got us a 20-0. He'd played Drukhari earlier in the day, so he had some reps there. Got our Knights into their Orcs, got us another 20-0. And then our Orcs into their Custodes, got us a 20-0. Orcs got first, just kind of bullied and pinned the Custodes back. And so just were dominating primary, and by the time the Custodes whittled through those bodies and were able to move to middle, the Orcs were just up too many points. That's really the best way to deal with something like Custodes. If you have a fast horde type army that has some durability, just pin them back and let them kill you. But you're up so much by the time they do that they can't catch up. There's the same thing our Necron list could do against stuff, which is one of the reasons we're really missing it. But yeah, we got 2 20-0s. We got my 11-9, so we won 4 of the games, so that would have won anyway, but we got 75-25. So that was the end of day 3 or day 2. So we were Little happy finally. If we'd got crushed this round, we had debated whether or not we were going to come back for the one round on Sunday, maybe get on the road early. But at this point, and then Art of War guys were looked like they were going to win again. So we know a lot of those guys from back in Tampa. Like we've known John since he was like a teenager. So we wanted to come back just to see them pull it off. So then we went into round six. We played into Death or Glory Moo Crew. This time we ended up putting our orcs into their Necrons. It was double Lichguard, which he had crushed one Lichguard squad earlier, but he had mentioned he didn't know if he could beat double Lichguard, but we wanted to find out because we knew he had done well in the Necrons before, so we thought, well, maybe he can keep it close. He got a 15-5, which isn't completely over. He got points out of it. Uh, then we threw the Grey Knight guy to the Eldar again for another 20-0. Sorry, Jarrett. Thanks for tanking that for us. So it ended up being out of the 6 rounds where our Necron player should have been, the 2 day one with nobody, and then the 4 with the Grey Knights. 4 of them ended up 20-0. One of them ended up 18-8, and one of them ended up 16-4. And he probably wins 5 to 6 of those games. So just having that gone really, really hurt the way we could do our pairings. So then I played into Tau, which was an 11-9 loss. Hadn't played into Tau. Uh, Day 6, I was tired. Wasn't really paying attention super hard when he was telling me what he was doing because all I've heard is Tower bad. So I was like, oh, I'll just win this. I'll figure it out. Uh, but those ghost keels with the lone operative, basically, or they do have lone operative, and then the 0 damages, I didn't deploy in a way where I could get good shooting stuff in range of them. And I realized this probably around turn 2 that they were going to be a problem. Uh, and I'll break that down on it. But lost 11-9 to Tau. If I pay a little attention, I'm playing a little better, I can probably win that game. But I was really impressed with the damage output of the Tau list. So I don't think I win big, but my list isn't designed to. But I probably could have won this game. And then our Eldar into their Knights. That's kind of what Eldar do tonight, especially with a Wraith Knight. So that's nothing shocking there. And then we had our Knights into their GSC. I got a 15-5, which is decent for Knights into GSC. This was the Purge Foe mission, which is kill more, hold more. So if we had to put Knights into GSC, this was the one matchup where we thought they could maybe keep it close. But we ended up losing 4 of the games, so 61-39 loss. I could have probably flipped this one, but I don't know. I don't think I could have got us enough points to pull that into a draw. So this is one of the few where I think it was going to be a loss anyway. My mistakes, I don't think, cost us it being a win or a draw. So I think this was just their list paired better into our lists. Uh, and yeah, they don't have their factions written down, but I got them written on my paper here. Uh, so this was the first round where we just completely couldn't, with missing the Necron, we just completely got mispaired around on everything. Normally we got a couple good matchups, but they outpaired us on a few. But that's how we ended up finishing the weekend. We ended up with 1 win, 3 losses, and 2 draws. I fully believe we could have easily gone 4-2, if not 5-1, if we had our Necron player with us. But I don't think we're going to win the event. Like Art of War, the Top Death or Glory team, some of those guys are just pro tabletop. Some of those teams are just a step above us, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I know some of our players like to think, "Oh, we couldn't. We're not going to win the whole thing, but we could have shown a lot better, and we could have made some noise, and maybe played into some of those teams." Uh, but that was the how the team did for the weekend. We had fun. It's always good to get around the guys. Our Eldar player is also normally a Grey Knight player. He got some tips from Harpster about the Grey Knights. I ran through, picked Siegler's brain on the Death Watch, so I might give that a run here at one of the upcoming RTTs. But I also have a different version of the Wolf list I tweaked after ATC. I'll do a video on that also, breaking down how I changed the Wolf list and the Death Watch list, and get your guys' opinions on what you think I should run at the next event coming up in 2 weeks, I believe. And then I'll have another one at toward the end of the month. But that's it for now. I will get back to you with the breakdown of my games each round, what my opponents ran, how each game went, and where I feel I could have improved my play or possibly my list. But that's it for now, and thank you guys for watching.